Hello everyone, today we dive into the most pivotal political revolution in ancient Chinese civilization, the Qin dynasty's creation of a centralized imperial system, a radical blueprint that did not merely unify warring states, but permanently reshaped China's political structure, cultural identity, and historical trajectory for more than 2,000 years. Long before the rise of Rome's imperial bureaucracy, or Europe's feudal kingdoms, a small western Chinese state named Qin built a governance model that would become the invisible backbone of every subsequent Chinese dynasty. To understand this system is to understand why China, unlike many other ancient civilizations, repeatedly reunified after fragmentation and preserved a continuous cultural and political tradition. Before 221 BCE, the Chinese world was trapped in a 500-year nightmare of endless civil war, the Spring and Autumn, and Warring States periods. Hundreds of feudal states, carved from the Zhou dynasty's crumbling empire, fought for survival and dominance. The Zhou's feudal system, which granted hereditary land and power to noble families, had collapsed completely. Local lords ignored the Zhou king, built private armies, taxed their own people, and even crowned themselves kings. This decentralized chaos led to constant bloodshed, economic fragmentation, and cultural division. Each state had its own writing system, currency, weights and measures and laws. Travel, trade, and communication across state lines were nearly impossible. The people suffered from endless conscription, plunder, and famine. Unity was not just a political ambition, it was a desperate social and economic necessity. The foundation of Qin's centralized system was not built overnight by Qin Shi Huang, but laid decades earlier by Shan Yang's radical legalist reforms in 356 BCE. Shan Yang, a visionary statesman from the state of Wei, transformed Qin from a backward marginalized state into a disciplined war-ready machine. His core goal was to strip power from hereditary nobles and concentrate it in the hands of the Qin ruler. He abolished the old feudal land system, redistributed land to peasant families, and tied their loyalty directly to the state. He introduced a merit-based military rank system. Commoners could earn noble titles and land through battlefield victories, while nobles lost their privileges if they failed to contribute militarily. Most critically, Shan Yang began implementing county-level administration, controlled directly by the central government, laying the early groundwork for the later nationwide Zhangxian or commandery-county system. These reforms were brutal and strictly enforced, but they eliminated aristocratic privilege, unified social rules, and turned Qin into a highly centralized, efficient state, capable of mobilizing massive resources for war and governance. By 221 BCE, Ying Zheng, later known as Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, had conquered all 6 rival states and ended centuries of division. He faced a defining choice: continue the Zhou feudal model that had failed catastrophically, or build an entirely new system to hold his vast empire together. His chief minister, Li Si, delivered a fatal warning. Feudal enfeoffment would create new noble clans that would soon fight each other, just as the Zhou states had done. The only path to lasting stability was total central control. Qin Shi Huang agreed, and launched a political revolution that redefined Chinese statehood forever. At the apex of the new system was the emperor, a title invented by Ying Zheng himself, combining the characters for sage emperor and divine ruler to signify his unprecedented authority. The emperor was not just a political leader, but a semi-divine autocrat who held absolute power over all land people, military, and administration. His words were a law Ji for mandatory edicts and Zhao for official announcements. The pronoun Zhen, once used by ordinary people, became the emperor's exclusive self-address. This institution of supreme monarchy was not just the title, it was the legal and ideological core of centralization, ensuring all power flowed downward from a single source. Beneath the emperor was the 3 lords and 9 ministers system, a sophisticated central bureaucracy designed to prevent any single official from challenging imperial authority. The 3 lords were the top officials: the chancellor, who oversaw all civil administration, the grand commandant, who managed military affairs, and the grand censor, who supervised officials, enforced laws, and monitored corruption. These 3 positions balanced and checked one another, with all final decisions reserved for the emperor. The 9 ministers managed specialized affairs: ritual palace, security, royal household, criminal justice, revenue, foreign relations, and more. This structure replaced the chaotic hereditary noble rule of the Zhou, with a professional appointed civil service, the world's first modern-style bureaucratic system. Every official was paid a salary appointed by the emperor, and could be dismissed at any time, ensuring absolute loyalty to the central government. The most revolutionary reform came in local governance, the nationwide replacement of feudal enfeoffment with the commandery-county system. The Qin Empire was divided into 36 commanderies, later expanded to over 40, each governed by a centrally appointed governor. Each commandery was split into counties, led by appointed magistrates. Unlike feudal lords, these officials held no hereditary rights, could not pass their positions to their children, and were regularly rotated to prevent local power bases. The central government controlled their promotions, demotions, and salaries, creating a vertical chain of command emperor, central courts commanderies, counties, townships, and villages. This system eliminated states within a state, and ensured every corner of the empire obeyed the same laws, paid the same taxes, and answered to the same authority. For the first time in Chinese history, a central government could enforce its will directly at the local level. To strengthen this political centralization, the Qin rolled out a series of sweeping unification policies that bound the empire economically and culturally. They standardized the Chinese writing system, imposing small seal script as the official script across all regions, erasing linguistic barriers that had fueled division. They unified currency, weights, measures, and even axle widths for carts, creating a single national market and efficient transportation network. They built a vast system of imperial roads and canals, connecting the capital Xianyang to every border region, enabling rapid troop deployment, tax collection, and communication. These measures were not just practical reforms, they were tools of cultural integration, turning a collection of former enemy states into a single cohesive civilization. For the next 2,000 years, every Chinese dynasty refined but never abandoned Qin's centralized blueprint. The Sui and Tang dynasties evolved the 3 lords and 9 ministers into the more efficient 3 departments and 6 ministries. The Yuan dynasty expanded the commandery-county system into the province system, still used in modern China. The Ming and Qing dynasties abolished the chancellorship and created cabinets and grand secretariats to further concentrate imperial power. Through division, invasion, and rebellion, China always returned to centralization because it provided the stability resource, mobilization, and unity needed to sustain a massive civilization. Unlike Europe, which fragmented into competing nation-states after the fall of Rome, China's centralized legacy ensured repeated reunification and the preservation of a shared cultural and political identity. The impact of Qin's centralization extends far beyond politics. It created the idea of great unity, a core value of Chinese civilization that prioritizes national unity over division. It enabled large-scale infrastructure projects, flood control, and border defense that protected millions of people. It fostered a unified written language that linked regions with vastly different dialects, preserving cultural continuity for millennia. It established a merit-based bureaucratic tradition that allowed talented commoners to rise through government service, a social mobility model unique in the ancient world. Even today, the administrative and governance traditions of modern China bear the indelible marks of Qin's revolutionary system. Critics often condemn the Qin for its tyranny, and rightly so. Its harsh laws, forced labor, and suppression of thought caused immense human suffering. The Qin's mistake was not centralization itself, but its refusal to balance strict governance with benevolence. Yet, its institutional legacy is undeniable. In just 15 years, the Qin dynasty built a political framework that outlived empires, religions, and invasions. It transformed a fractured collection of warring states into a unified civilization and gave China a structural identity that has endured for over 2 millennia. When we study ancient world civilizations, we see countless empires rise and fall, but few left a political system that remained intact for 2,000 years. The Qin's centralized empire was not just a dynasty, it was a historical turning point. It proved that a strong unified central government could sustain a vast multi-ethnic civilization, and in doing so, it shaped every chapter of China's story afterward. To understand China, you must first understand the Qin, the small, brutal, brilliant dynasty that wrote the rulebook for Chinese history. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient China, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic history. See you next time.